Oh, from, yeah, oh, for sure, Frank, thank you.
All right, we're upstairs here at the club show. This is the Denver Gem and Mineral Show, and I'm right outside the booth for Persson Rare Minerals. So let's jump in and say hey to Phil. All right, here we are with Phil. Hey, Phil, how you doing, buddy?
Hey, I'm doing good, Brian.
Good to see you, mate.
Good to be here. So we are at the HardRock Summit 2023 here in downtown Denver, Colorado, and I have been busy the past month, traveling all over the Midwest and the Eastern U.S., buying minerals and visiting customers, and have a whole bunch of new things to show you guys that I picked up on my recent road trip, and some things I've had at my gallery over in Golden. So yeah, I think I'm going to start off here with something from a little further away before we talk about some American minerals. So those of you that saw me in Tucson may have seen that I had some new pyromorphites from China, and some folks are calling these Matcha Pyramorphites because they have a very interesting green color. And just about 2 months ago, there was a new pocket of these pyromorphites at the Daoping mine, which is in kind of southeast part of China. It's a famous pyromorphite location, been producing great pyromorphite for basically 20 years now. And this pocket was really interesting because the color is really distinctly different than what we've seen before. It's really kind of a matcha, almost like a tea green color. And the crystals have this deep hoppering, which I really like. This really kind of intense hoppering, almost like you get in a vanadinite crystal. And these were basically all from one pocket that was found about 2 months ago. It's a small artisanal mine, so my understanding is it's not the Daoping mine proper, but it's the Daoping Yangshuo deposit. And that's also where the plumogummites come from, and the pseudomorphs, and a whole bunch of other interesting things. So I've got a whole suite of these here. And it's kind of interesting to compare to the previous pockets. So here's a specimen that I would have probably had in Tucson, and you can see these are sort of rounded barrel-shaped crystals. They have a nice luster, but the color is a little more of the typical grass green, the yellow green that we've seen from the Daoping mine. And the new ones really are kind of distinctive with this matcha green color that they have going on. There's some fairly large plates. There's a plate over here that's about 15 centimeters across, cabinet-sized piece. And then there's some really nice cabinet-sized clusters here with nice large crystals, and then kind of going down to smaller crystals. The luster on these is quite nice, and they did a really good job of collecting them. So they've come out in pretty nice condition, which is good because pyromorphite is a fragile mineral, and it's pretty easy to damage these. So I've got a whole suite of these here. These range in price anywhere from the low hundreds up to about $3,000–4,000 for the best ones. I've got different sizes, different styles of crystals. So really happy to have some more of these. Some of them are even floater clusters like this. This one I like because you've got this big kind of isolated main crystal here, and then smaller ones. And then if you flip it around, it's actually totally complete on the back. And this is a style of pyromorphite I've seen from the Lafarge mine in France. Sometimes does this as well. This kind of almost like little matchstick books or something of pyromorphite crystals.
Yeah.
So kind of a fun new thing. Everybody loves pyromorphite, myself included. And happy to have a nice selection of these for the Denver show that I'm kind of showing for the first time here.
Great. Those are terrific.
Thank you. So we'll come up a little higher here in this display case and zoom in on some of these Jeffrey Mine garnets. This is a new thing that I just got as well. These are Grossular Garnet specimens from the Jeffrey Mine. And these are from the collection of Francesco Spertini, who is the mine geologist at the Jeffrey Mine for many years. And this one I like in particular. It's got a real big isolated crystal there that's about a 2.5, little over 2 centimeters across. And it's hard to get crystals kind of in this size range from Jeffrey. They tend to be smaller plates. So very nice miniature. Love the glow of these garnets. You know, garnets come from a million places in the world. But personally, for Grossular, these Jeffrey Mine Grossulars are probably my favorite from anywhere. They're just super juicy and gemmy, and I love the luster that they have on the faces. So this one here, the sticker price is $8,000. I've got some nice small ones here from the same collection in the sort of 500 to 1500 range. This is a nice little plate here with that really juicy glow there. These crystals, even when they're small, are super gemmy and really kind of light up under even minimal lighting. And then the best piece I got from the Spertini collection is this big plate back here. And this one I love because not only is it a large cabinet-sized piece, but it's got some nice relief to it as well. I particularly love this chain of these super gemmy crystals here coming down the side and then actually extending around to the back side of the piece as well. And there's little diopside crystals that are all in here, which is kind of nice. Very often, these Jeffrey Mine garnets tend to basically be flat plates, which are still beautiful, but it's really nice when you get a three-dimensional one like this with some relief, some of the diopside crystals, and then these really juicy, totally gem quality garnets with these little striations as well, which I find interesting. So this piece, the price is $20,000. And this is probably my largest piece that I got from this Bertini collection. But I've got lots of small ones as well. I've got a few with nice isolated crystals, which are kind of neat. This guy here in particular I like on this kind of white matrix. Just one real juicy isolated crystal there on the white matrix. Yeah. And you get all these little striations on the faces. And then some little ones here that are kind of colorless, which is neat too. And this guy, the price is $4,500. So really happy to have a nice range of Jeffrey Mine pieces. The mine closed about 20 years ago, and just one of those classics that you don't see around as much as I wish you did these days.
Yep.
So while we're in this case, I'm going to pick up this big boy over here. This is a recent acquisition as well. This is a huge blue topaz crystal from Brazil. The theme of the show this year in Denver is gem crystals, and this is probably my biggest gem crystal I have right now. This is from the Herforth collections, a guy named Gerald Herforth. He was a collector in Denver, and he ended up donating his collection to the Colorado School of Mines Museum, and I got this in a trade. But it's a big gem topaz. And what's neat about this is not only the size and the fact that it's in pretty nice condition, but this is actually an older specimen. This came out in the 1960s. And Jerry Herforth was active in the 60s and 70s. And basically at that time, he was buying the best of what was coming from Brazil. He lived in Denver, and topaz was his favorite mineral, and he was able to get a whole suite of these beautiful XL-sized topaz crystals. This guy's about 17 centimeters across, weighs about 12 pounds, and this has not been to a lab at all, so I think with a little bit of lab work as well, some of this little bit of iron staining would go away, but it's a really nice, big, showy topaz crystal.
Yeah, that's great.
From Brazil, and the price on this guy is $20,000. So I'll put that back here. And then one more thing I'll share super quick while we're over here in this display case are a few of these apatites here from Colorado. So these are on kind of my gem crystal shelf here. You see I've got lots of tourmalines and topazes and things, but these are one of our few real gem crystals that we get from the state of Colorado that's not topaz or aquamarine. These are fluorapatite crystals, and they're from a place called the Crystal Lode Pegmatite, which is in central part of Colorado, kind of near Vail. And this pegmatite's been known for these apatites for almost 100 years at this point, but there was a find made in the summer of 2021 that kind of blew away all the previous ones from this locality. They look a little bit like the Mexican ones from Cerro Versado, and they can get pretty large too. This is about as big as they get, and you can see that we've got a nice kind of beveled termination on this one with some neat gemmy faces, and just a really interesting thing for Colorado. One of the gem crystal occurrences that a lot of people who don't live in Colorado haven't heard of before.
That's neat. Now, when did those come out?
These came out in the summer of 2021. So
okay.
There were people digging the deposit before then and finding small crystals here and there. They're basically all loose in the pegmatite. But in the summer of 2021, so 2 summers ago, there was a really exceptional find of these apatite crystals. And the ones I have with me here are kind of the bigger and better of the find. These range anywhere from $500 up to about $1,500. But I've got many small ones as well. So if this is something that interests you, please feel free to get in touch with me using the link on the screen. And I'd love to show you some more of these.
Now, what's the status of the find right now?
So the locality is under claim by a friend of mine, and he's been working it since then, and he's dug a very large pit with a buddy of his basically by hand. And I wouldn't say they've come up empty, but it's remarkable how many of these and how good they were in a very small part of the pegmatite, and now they've dug another 20 feet and they haven't really hit anything.
It's gone. Okay.
And it's just the nature of these pegmatites. You know, most of these gem deposits, whether it was a collapsed pocket, whether it was just a zone that got moved, you know, alluvially or something, they kind of hit a bonanza, now they're working it, and they haven't quite hit much since then. So I think there's still future potential there. It's a beautiful, beautiful area. It is possible to collect in other parts of the pegmatite that are not under claim, I believe. So it's a great place to visit. But the big ones like this appear to have been a kind of a one-time thing, at least for now.
A one-off kind of situation. Superb.
So I thought we'd move over to this case to the right here and briefly talk about one of my favorite areas for minerals in the U.S., which is the Michigan copper deposits. A lot of you that know me and follow me know that I have a soft spot for Michigan copper, and I was really lucky to work on a project with Chris Stefano last year on the Michigan copper country that resulted in a new issue coming out, the first one since 1993, talking about the Michigan copper deposits, history, minerals, and stuff.
That was super issue.
Thank you. Yeah, no, it's a labor of love for sure. Anybody that's written for MinRec can tell you it's you don't do it for fame or money. It's a passion project, but it was super fun, and I felt very grateful to have been chosen by Chris to help him with that. So when I was up in Michigan last month, I was able to get some really nice copper specimens. And this guy actually is a specimen that was in my personal collection, and I sold to a collector in Michigan, and I got it back in a trade recently, which I was really happy to get it back. This is from the Phoenix mine, and I believe this specimen is actually illustrated in the recent mineralogical record issue that I just talked about. And what I love about this is that you've got these really sharp twin crystals up here, especially at the top of the specimen, with this kind of pointy morphology, and these are actually tetrahexahedral twin crystals. So kind of a mouthful, tetrahexahedral, but this is a classic form that Michigan copper takes. And I love it, like this one in particular, where you can really see the morphology. It's not just a jumbled mess, it's actually got distinct crystals. And then the whitish stuff in there is actually barite, which is kind of an unusual association for Michigan copper. So just a nice big aesthetic specimen, presents nicely. I've got it on a little Sunnywood base there where it stands up vertically. It's about almost a 12-inch specimen, so definitely large cabinet size. But love the sort of intricacy of the crystallization, and then how it kind of terminates up here into these nice sharp V-shaped crystals there. And this is from the Phoenix mine, which is actually one of the first mines to operate up there, going back to the really middle part of the 1900s, 1850s, even late 1840s.
So when did this come out?
This would have probably come out, if I had to guess, in the sort of 1900-ish era. But it's really hard to say. I mean, it could have been early, it could have been a little later. This was in a collection, you know, not surprisingly. And unfortunately, its history and labels had kind of been lost over time.
Okay, I was going to ask if you still have the labels.
Unfortunately not. You know, that's something I take a lot of effort to preserve as a dealer and a collector, or old labels, but unfortunately not everybody has the same view of labels. So sometimes you get labels, sometimes you don't. But yeah, it was really fun going up to Michigan this year and getting a mix of new and old specimens. This is a neat little piece here, this silver specimen that was actually just collected this summer. So these are silver crystals that are in quartz, and they show some nice spinel twinning there where they're coming out of the quartz. And these are from a mine called the Mass Mine, which is in the southern part of the Copper District. And this was actually collected by a younger field collector who I know just this past summer. So it's neat that things of this quality are still being found. And occasionally some really good crystallized specimens are still coming out of the ground.
I love that it's brand new out of the ground.
Yeah, brand new out of the ground. And there's the label on this guy, so that sticker price is $3,000 on this silver. Mm-hmm. So moving on here, I'll point out one more piece here while we're in this case. This is something I have a soft spot for that, again, is a fairly recent acquisition. This is a calcite from the Stank mine in the UK. And those of you that follow Crystal Classics and some of the European dealers, I've seen these British calcites before. The European collectors and dealers love them, and I love them too. This one I particularly like because you have a combination of these really gemmy calcites and then just a very delicate accenting of the red hematite. And speaking of old things, this is the kind of piece that would have come out probably in the late 19th century. And to me, it's remarkable that not only did this come out 100 plus years ago, but it really is in almost pristine condition for being a antique specimen. All the calcites are in really nice condition. They're all terminated, and they form these really nice little kind of flower-like clusters there, which I like, kind of shooting off the matrix. So super classic and super distinctive for the area. You know, even today with all the calcite coming from different parts of the world, I think these British calcites kind of hold their own.
Absolutely, yep. Classic.
And the sticker price on this guy is $5,000 from the Stank mine. So next, I thought we would move over, keep going right here to my furthest over display case here. and talk about a couple fun pieces that I got here recently. So Illinois fluorites are having a moment these days. Everybody loves them, myself included. They're probably almost, it's hard to find a mineral that's more popular with collectors actually than these fluorites. And I'm sure Ross Lilly and many other folks are chagrined at that. But I can see why. They're gorgeous, they're colorful, they're gemmy. And when you get a big group of crystals like this with all these cool kind of stair-step crystals, it's just a beautiful thing. And I really can understand why people love them.
Oh, yeah.
This one in particular, when you get it up under the light here,
oh, yeah,
you can see how it glows from the inside. It's got yellow on the inside, and then going to purple, and then finally going to blue on the outside. And the crystals have a really neat complexity to them that I like as well, that goes around the back as well, with this cool kind of stair-stepping going on and all these little kind of modified gemmy corners. And this big guy actually is from the collection of a guy named Shorty Milliken, who was a dealer in Southern Illinois back in the 80s and the early 90s. And for those of you that are interested, there's a fantastic newspaper article about this guy that I'm happy to send you, from the Chicago Tribune in like 1992. And they were trying to get him to run for mayor at the time, and he said he refused to get into politics because he didn't want to offend any of his fluorite customers. So I just love that quote. He said, minerals come first, then politics.
Totally.
Yep, so Shorty Milliken, he was one of the Illinois fluorite originals, I guess. And this big guy is from the Minerva #1 mine, most likely, and the list price on this is going to be $3,800.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's a good price.
So, thank you. Yeah, nice big Illinois fluorite. And I've got a couple other nice Illinois pieces here that are recent. These witherites, I've always thought were underrated. And this guy's like a little dumbbell or a peanut, depending on how your mind works. But it's a really fun little witherite. It's got this nice twinning going on. It's terminated at both ends. And this guy's from the Minerva #1 mine. So a couple nice little witherites there as well. One other thing I'll point out when I'm on this shelf here is this Norwegian zircon. So those of you that follow Spearfur Minerals may have seen about 10 years ago, Spearfur was involved in zircon mining in Norway, and they found some great zircons up there at the Ceylon locality. These are not from that dig. These are actually collected by a Norwegian friend of mine back in the 1980s, 1970s, 1980s. And this one I particularly like because you've got all these zircon crystals sticking up off the matrix. This one in particular is really quite gemmy. They're kind of in the corner. And for zircon, these are probably my favorite zircons. You know, zircon's a mineral that occurs in all different localities, all different colors, all different gem colors as well. But I always had a soft spot for these Norwegian ones. And this is a nice cabinet size one here with a whole bunch of crystals. This guy is $3,500, but I've got these in a variety of sizes and crystal styles, anywhere from $20 up to kind of the low thousands.
Okay.
From Norway. So real quick, while we're in this case, I'll point out a couple big kind of, I hate to say the term museum size, because all my friends that work in the museum world tell me they don't want specimens this big. In fact, they're trying to get rid of specimens this big.
Right.
Which, while we're talking about it, is how I got these. So these are ex-Steve Neely specimens from Elmwood, Tennessee. Dr. Steve unfortunately passed away not too long ago, but he was kind of Mr. Elmwood. And I did a trade with the School of Mines Museum for some nice Colorado minerals recently, and was able to get these nice Elmwood specimens. So these are classic Elmwood pieces. This one, you've got a big fluorite crystal here, a giant barite ball, and then these nice lustrous sphalerite crystals with little fluorites on it from Elmwood. In the middle here, we've got a nice association of fluorite crystals with sphalerite, kind of a big mound of fluorite on sphalerite. And these have these neat little corners too that are kind of recessed. I've been told, in fact, Dr. Neely, when he was alive, told me that basically the reason this happens is they're kind of on their way to turning into the etched corners that people love from Elmwood.
Okay.
So they start to kind of dissolve from the outside in, and then you get these little sort of curved faces here and there, which is neat. And then we've got a sphalerite here on the left. Sphalerite is actually the main ore mineral at Elmwood, and it's probably the least respected of all the minerals at Elmwood, but I would challenge you to find a nicer, prettier black sphalerite from almost anywhere than these sphalerites from Elmwood. And again, this is kind of in the XL category. Mm-hmm. So these three range in price from $2,500 up to about $4,000, and they are all from the Neely collection.
Right on. We miss Steve very dearly.
Yeah, he was a neat guy. I really was grateful to get to know him in my Collector's Edge days and get to have some neat conversations with him about Elmwood. And he was one of those people too who, you know, despite being at the upper echelon of the hobby, always stopped and said hi to me and complimented my minerals, and you know, made me feel appreciated. So
he was a true gentleman.
He was. So moving down here, I know some of you have seen my Thunder Bay amethyst before, and I do have some new Thunder Bay specimens, but the thing I want to focus on in here are big chunks of metal. Those of you that know me also know that I love my metals. I love copper, silver, gold, and silver is probably one of my favorite metals. And I was fortunate about 6 months ago to get some silver specimens from the collection of my friend Bob Houck. And some of these I sent off to a friend in Montana who does meteorite polishing and cutting, and I actually had him cut these and then do a nice professional polish. And this one I particularly like because not only does it have these nice dendritic silver crystals in this pinkish calcite, but it's actually the complete silver vein. So you've got the contact here on one side with the rock, and then on the other side is the contact as well. And you can see how this vein is just chock full of these silver crystals. And then it actually pinches down here to almost nothing, which is pretty cool. So it's a impressive mineral specimen for the metal collector, but it's also a really cool geology piece, and then it kind of tells the story of how these veins form here. And you can see on the other side where it's not polished, these silver crystals go through there as well.
That's great.
So this is from the Brady Lake mine, and this is from the collection of my friend Bob Houck. And here's the label on this guy real quick. And I've actually got the other half of this piece is down here as well, that was cut off of the same specimen. And if you prefer the more massive variety of silver, I have that too. This pair here, I think this weighs about 30 pounds, and these are super, super rich. I mean, there's a little bit of cobalt and nickel arsenides in this, but this is like 80% silver. And it's pretty fun just holding a thing like this in your hands and appreciating the density of the silver. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
There you go. A little forearm workout.
Oh, yeah.
We're rocking out with the hard rocks here at the HardRock Summit. Heavy hard rocks, and yeah, you can see the silver sticking out there on the other side, and I kind of like the uncut side. Totally, because you can see all the silver just sticking out of the rock. You know, it's all this kind of stuff would have come out in miners' lunchboxes, literally the original miners' lunchbox. And it's fun to think of these miners, you know, high grading this stuff on the job, so to speak, back in the day. And here's the other half of this guy that's even heavier. If you're a metal guy or a geologist, these would make a hell of a set of bookends, I think.
Yeah, they're terrific.
Yeah, for your geology books.
I really dig those.
Yeah, so.
No pun intended, or maybe pun intended.
Exactly. Yeah, so I've got a couple pairs of these. These are all match pairs, so to speak.
How much are these?
So this guy, the sticker price is $4,000, and then this guy is $3,000 here. And then I've got one more here.
That's not for the pair. It's just for.
That's for the pair.
Oh, it is for the pair.
Yep. These are being sold as pairs.
Okay.
Yep. And then this guy, the price is going to be $3,500, and this is a really nice big plate here with these dendritic twin crystals that are actually again in the calcite matrix. So it's got really nice patterns to it. This material is really popular for cabochons too. You've got folks who will cut and polish this material and turn it into cabochons, and can really make some beautiful jewelry. But I like this piece just as a geology specimen, as an ore specimen. And it's amazing how nondescript it looks on the other side.
Yeah.
Literally just a chunk of rock. If you saw that in your driveway, you'd kick it out of the way, right?
Exactly.
You know, but then you slice it and voila. So
beautiful.
Yep. Definitely something neat about that. So the last thing I think I'll show today is going to be also in the ore category. And this is kind of an extension of what we just talked about here, but in the bigger and richer category. This is another piece of silver ore from the Cobalt District in Ontario. And I've been buying and selling this material now going back probably 15 years, almost 20 years, since I actually met Bob Houck in high school. He was kind of a mentor of mine. And this piece I got directly from a mining family that lived in Cobalt about 6 months ago. And I've seen bigger pieces, I've seen heavier pieces, but as far as richness of the silver and presentation, I have to say I really like this one a lot. This is I don't know if boulder is the right word. It's basically a vein cross section, but this is a chunk of silver that weighs 46 pounds, and it's got about 500 ounces of silver in it. Anywhere between 300 and 500 ounces of silver, depending on how you estimate the content. But you can see the silver is just chock full of this specimen. And again, this is a complete cross section of the vein. So it's been cut on two faces here. And the silver is going all the way through the rock. There's just a little bit of calcite and some other minerals. I'm going to set this guy down here before I exceed my carrying capacity. Yeah. This is a heavy rock. And this is from the Cobalt District again. This sat on a miner's fireplace for, I think, about 30 years or more. And again, this was probably high graded from the job, so to speak, many, many years ago. But I just love the patterns of the silver here on top and then on the side. And I like that it's just cut on two faces too. Like, you know, typically things like this are cut into slices, but this one I like because it's got that blocky kind of satisfying heft and lots of silver in it. So
superb.
Yeah. So guys, thank you for taking a few minutes to check out my minerals here in Denver. I hope I see all of you at the HardRock Summit this year. We are set up here and ready to rock. And for those of you that can't make the show, please give me a shout online. You can reach out to me through email, or you can follow me on my social pages. And hope to see you soon.
All right. Thanks, Phil.
Thank you, Brian.